am from beyond! Slay your enemies, and all you desire shall be yours! Nothing you dream of is impossible for me to accomplish! Hello and welcome to Atop the Fourth Wall, where bad comics burn. Event Comics Month continues with what could be considered the first event comic. It had tie-ins, it has a huge cast, and it was a maxi series with twists, turns, and ramifications down the line. This is Marvel's Secret Wars. So if Crisis on Infinite Earths was made to celebrate DC's 50th anniversary and streamline the universe to make it more accessible, what lofty goals did Secret Wars have? Oh, the noblest of all purposes. Money! According to writer and editor Tom DeFalco in 1992, DC is actually partially responsible for Secret Wars. Toy company Kenner acquired the license to produce DC toys, and they proved to be wildly successful. So much so that Mattel came knocking at Marvel's door and wanted to get some superhero toys of their own. However, they were only interested in the big-name heroes and villains, the most well-known and popular ones. Mattel also wanted some kind of big promotional push to help sell the toy line, basically in much the same way movies and TV shows use comics as intellectual property factories to create stories to draw on. They wanted some big event to promote the toys. According to the writer of the book, Jim Shooter, the name came simply as a result of focus group tests. Kids loved the words wars and secret, so they just combined them together, even though it really doesn't make that much sense as a title. They also wanted playsets and vehicles to premiere in the book that they then could make toys out of. Cynical perhaps, but hey, let's not kid ourselves. 9 times out of 10, event comics exist for a temporary sales boost anyway, even if the story is good. But hey, at least you don't have to worry about that kind of blatant commercialism here. On an unrelated note, did you know I have a new DVD coming out soon? Unlike Crisis, Secret Wars has a less complex story to it, but what keeps it interesting is the various factions at play within it. It's set up as a simple heroes versus villains situation, but remember, everyone has their own agenda and reason for what they do, so it's not as easy as that. That being said, Secret Wars has had something of a negative reputation as of late, partially due to plot holes, poor characterization, and just downright goofy writing. So let's dig into the first event comic, Secret Wars, and see why I personally love it.
Welcome to Atop the Fourth Wall, where bad comics burn. Linkara's gonna teach you all a lesson you won't learn. Brodsky, you're not the smartest. Life out, you're not an artist. Anyone who's had a bad comic published, it could be your turn. Linkara, he's a man punch, wears a pretty hat. Linkara, he has a magic gun. Where'd he purchase that? Linkara, coins, robots, Amazons and trucks. Linkara, this comic sucks. Linkara.
This is going to be the biggest battle of all time. And I'm gonna use this to keep a diary of it. I'll record whatever happens, so that the greatest war ever fought isn't a secret war.
Like last time, it's 12 issues, so no talking about the covers. One of the more interesting aspects of it being the first big crossover is that there aren't really tie-ins in the traditional sense. You know, a subplot continued in someone else's book. Instead, Marvel chose a very interesting promotional method. All the heroes who are in Secret Wars, at the end of an issue of their own books, found an odd structure in New York's Central Park and entered into it. And then were teleported away, saying that the story would be continued in Secret Wars. And instead of interrupting the books of all these characters, the heroes returned the next month with the changes that occurred in the event, which encouraged readers to buy the maxi series and figure out what happened to cause these changes. DC did a similar thing in 2006 following the event Infinite Crisis, jumped their books ahead 1 year later. Want to know the details of all the weird things that happened between then? Buy the weekly series 52! And hey, 52 was actually really damn good, so kudos there on the marketing. I actually wouldn't mind that kind of thing more often in events instead of direct tie-ins. And yet, despite the whole purpose of this event being about toy promotion, Rom was left on Earth? Come on! What, if you're worried about the toy executives from a different company, just everyone call him Ram and let him be interrupted each time he tries to correct them. The story begins in space, in the distant reaches of the universe, far, far from planet Earth. An uninhabited spiral galaxy turns its everlasting pirouette in magnificent splendor, unseen by living eyes. Oh geez, sorry Galaxy, didn't mean to walk in on your ballet practice. The structure that had teleported the heroes suddenly appears in space, carrying on it the Fantastic Four, Spider-Man, Iron Man, the Hulk, the X-Men, including Storm, Cyclops, Professor Xavier, Wolverine, Colossus, Nightcrawler, Rogue, and Loki the Dragon, and Avengers, Captain America, Wasp, Thor, She-Hulk, Hawkeye, and Captain Marvel. No, not that one. Not that one. Not even that one. No, this is the second Marvel Captain Marvel after the original died of cancer. Her name is Monica Rambeau, and she can convert her body into energy as well as absorb energy and shoot it out. After she gave up the name Captain Marvel, she's gone through like half a dozen other codenames. You might also recognize her from Next Wave, Agents of Hate. Next Wave, at least a third of our members have or had a codename featuring the word Captain. A few other notes of continuity I should get out of the way. At this point in time, Bruce Banner is able to retain his intellect as the Hulk. The Iron Man suit does not have Tony Stark in it right now, but Rhodey. Susan Storm is not with the Fantastic Four, off being pregnant in their book. And there is one other person among the heroes I haven't mentioned. Magneto. The heroes introduce themselves to each other. However, the group then notices that there's another construct in the distance. On it, villains. A lot of them I haven't talked about before, but it's not like you need that big a primer. The Enchantress, a Thor villain with various powers mostly related to, well, enchanting. Ultron, and if you're only familiar with the movie version, it's a somewhat similar deal, only he was created by Hank Pym and not Tony Stark. Also less concerned about accidentally cutting off dudes' arms. The Absorbing Man, who can make his body mimic the strength and endurance of something by touching it. The Wrecking Crew, 4 villains who, well, wreck stuff. Kang the Conqueror, whom you might recall from when he tried to trick the crew of the Enterprise E and the X-Men. And if you don't recall that, well, surprise! This is the 450th episode, and I've reviewed a lot. The Lizard and Dr. Octopus, who apparently decided to try out a blue outfit for this panel. So these scans match the ones in my trade of it. Very high quality stuff, printed in 2011. Someone want to explain why they didn't fix that coloring error? The Molecule Man, who we'll be getting to know better in this story. Dr. Doom, and Galactus. Galactus' presence here is really the signifier of the seriousness of the situation. That somebody was able to take a dude who eats planets. Mind you, considering how the heroes were all taken by that structure in Central Park, you've got to wonder if that's what happened to the villains too. Did Galactus see a big arena-shaped area and decide, yeah, that seems like something I should step inside? Doom makes note of his group, as well as the sensors of his suit detecting the heroes in the other transport. Interesting. A gathering of forces, as if for war. Nothing says you're ready for war quite like a lizard man and a bunch of dudes who theme themselves around construction equipment. The Thing wonders why, if the villains are on the other transport, Magneto is with them. Magneto defends himself, saying that he only kills and fights to defend mutant kind and acts in self-defense. I'd say there's a bit of truth in that. Sure, Magneto is a villain, no doubt, but the force that gathered the two groups is looking for things in a bit more of a spectrum than just straight up good and evil. Magneto's motivations are pretty much noble, even though he does terrible villainous things to accomplish them. And hell, Magneto does reform and lead the X-Men for a while in continuity. Contrast that with the villains. Galactus is among them, but he's not malevolent. In his case, he's more just indifferent to good and evil. And equally so indifferent to the lives he snuffs out to appease his hunger. He's not happy about it, but as far as he's concerned, his well-being is more important than the billions he kills. The others are driven by greed, selfishness, delusions of grandeur, or, well, take your pick. Molecule Man is the only other one who's less of a villain, but he's prone to villainous impulses because of his background. But anyway, we know the pieces on the board. Now let's learn about the game. The two groups look out at the cosmos around them and see that cosmos quickly devoured up. Well, there's your answer for those of you who were asking about whether Marvel's Earth was destroyed in Crisis on Infinite Earths. Actually, all the stars and galaxies and all that are erased, except for one star in the void. Swept away, like dust before some unseen giant hand! Should have used a cosmic Swiffer sheet. Around that one star is formed a planet, made of chunks of other planets. This is Battleworld, as it will be called, and indeed, it makes for a more interesting game when there could be anything on this patchwork planet. Dr. Doom is in awe of this sight, but Ultron is not at all impressed, instead deciding to attack everybody around him. I am Ultron! My purpose is to slay that which lives! You are all living things, ergo, Ultron must destroy you! Well, not my favorite political slogan, but I appreciate his honesty. Ultron is made of adamantium, so there's not much the villains can do. Except for Molecule Man, whom Dr. Doom says is the one who can stop him. Molecule Man is arguably the most powerful among them, possibly even potentially a problem for Galactus depending on how he uses his powers. He can control and manipulate molecules to his whim. What holds him back are his feelings of self-loathing, inadequacy, and other various things. At the time of Secret Wars, he's been undergoing therapy to try to cure him of those feelings, while also, trying to encourage him to not hurt people with those powers. Or use them at all, but there you go. Doom convinces him he doesn't have to hurt anyone, just as long as he shoves Ultron right into Galactus' leg. Galactus, being Galactus, didn't care about any of these shenanigans until someone bumped into him. Ultron, being kinda single-minded, decides that he'll just attack Galactus anyway. That decision does not end well for him, as Galactus just drains his energy out of him, and Ultron's lifeless body crumples to the ground. Man, the Age of Ultron did not last as long as I expected. A beam of light appears out of the void and shines on the two teams. This is God! I decided to call a do-over on the universe. I apologize for the inconvenience. No, the statement from the light is succinct and yet vague. I am from beyond! My Star Trek movie should have done so much better at the box office. Slay your enemies, and all you desire shall be yours. Nothing you dream of is impossible for me to accomplish. And yes, Colossus, even that. You are incredibly gross and weird, but yes, I'll do that. Galactus is the one who names this being, the Beyonder, but we don't actually learn anything about him until the final issue. More or less, a chance encounter allowed him to observe Earth from his dimension, studying it for years. He became fascinated by the concept of desire, so set about conducting an experiment, this whole event. One thing we do know about the Beyonder, though, he's as powerful as his word. Galactus flies out of the structure to confront the Beyonder, sensing that indeed the being is capable of ending his hunger, and doesn't want to play the game to do that. Dr. Doom, however, flies after him, wanting to get a closer look and maybe gain power for himself, but both Galactus and Doom are repelled from the Beyonder and sent to Battleworld. The heroes and villains land in separate parts of the area. The heroes argue about whether or not to work alongside Magneto, with the X-Men recognizing that they may need his power for what's to come, but when it's clear that the other heroes won't accept him, Magneto decides to take his chances on his own. The heroes then decide that they need a joint leader, with many suggestions thrown around. What about you, Professor? You read minds. That could come in handy. Invading people's privacy is the best sign of a great leader. But yeah, everyone defers to Captain America, except Wolverine, because he feels like being a prick. Meanwhile, Dr. Doom recovers near Galactus' unconscious body and goes off to a nearby fortress where the villains have gathered. The villains, in an uncharacteristic display of good sense, have voted, and most feel that Dr. Doom would be the best to lead them, since they all want the prize the Beyonder has promised. However, Doom thinks that fighting is pointless. It's the power of the Beyonder that they should be after, not the petty riches or possessions that some of them want. Unable to convince them, Doom decides to take his chances talking to the heroes about it, taking a ship from the fortress. The operation of this alien vessel is child's play to one of my intellect. I can drive stick! I am Doom! Kang, however, doesn't want to take the chance of him joining the heroes, so uses a cannon from the fortress and shoots Doom's ship out of the sky. Doom wants to steal the power of the Beyonder, yet he's gotten his ass kicked twice in 10 minutes. Might want to rethink your aspirations, dude. The heroes spot the remains crashing and head there, finding Doom amongst the wreckage. Cap offers a hand to help him, but Doom is a prideful dickhead. Is that pity I see in your eyes, Captain America? And yours, Richards? Pity yourselves! Doom does not need friends! Doom needs none but his pet cat! Issue 1 ends with Doom forcing the heroes back and leaving. just as Iron Man detects the villains on the attack, armed with weapons from the fortress. Entering issue 2, the first battle does not go well for the heroes. The advanced weapons the villains have knock a bunch of people out, and even the Hulk gets hit hard, and the ever-resourceful strategy of throw a big rock has its challenges. Doom, in the meantime, decides to head for the villain fortress to see what he can do with the technology there. He passes Galactus, trying to get his attention when he wakes up, but of course he just ignores him and walks off. Inside the fortress is the body of Ultron, which Doom thinks could be useful to him. Back at the battle, the heavy hitters of the heroes managed to turn things around, including She-Hulk getting to cut loose and punch the Enchantress without holding back. Oh wow, that was like tubular, you know? To the max! Jennifer Walters, attorney, and totally tubular She-Hulk. Kang, the Enchantress, and 3 of the Wrecking Crew are all knocked out and taken prisoner, the rest of the villains making a hasty retreat. The heroes find their own fortress to occupy and begin exploring it, even finding a brig for their prisoners that keeps them in a form of stasis. And for some reason, Professor Xavier can walk here. I tried to look this up, and from what I can tell, it involves a cloned body and him just using the chair out of a psychosomatic pain that he gets over in the series, and well, I don't know. Xavier has apparently lost and gained the ability to walk like 3 or 4 times now. While they start working on finding supplies and some scouting missions to find the remaining villains, Magneto makes his home in yet another fortress, which is, of course, shaped like a huge magnet.
I am Magneto, master of magnet.
The rest of the villains return to their base, only to be met by Doom and a reprogrammed Ultron. Naturally, any thoughts of trying to fight Doom are quelled for the time being. Still, Doom recognizes the ace he has in the Molecule Man and gets to work schmoozing the guy.
Molecule Man! Mr. Reese, I believe it is. I trust you are not inconvenienced. Doom loves that shade of green on you.
Come to think of it, check out our remaining villains. Doom should just name this the Green Team. They use the fortress's sensors to detect Galactus 4,000 miles away, just kind of standing on a mountain and holding out his arms in front of him.
Galactus shall learn this Macarena.
Magneto flies over to the heroes' base to try to steal their power core, while the heroes themselves exercise in some character development, all realizing that they're kind of stuck here with no way home. Fortunately, Spider-Man's danger sense alerts him to Magneto's presence, and they attack.
None may touch the person of Magneto! The person of Magneto is very sensitive about being touched!
Magneto decides to abandon his plan, but manages to use some metal walls to take the Wasp captive as well. The Thing chases after, but all of a sudden he reverts back into Ben Grimm. Man, thank God for the elastic underwear that shrank with him. Issue 3 begins with a storm outside Magneto's base, though he's unconcerned with that, and rather with his prisoner. The two meet as Magneto scarfs down some space enchiladas.
Ah, good evening, Miss Van Dyne. Or do you prefer to be called Wasp? Do not bother trying to attack me, my dear. My person is magnetically shielded.
Are we sure at this point that Magneto isn't talking about some tiny person that he carries around with him? Despite his person being magnetically shielded, the Wasp manages to shoot a stinger blast that knocks over his food.
No! My person's Hot Pockets!
Magneto says he just wants to talk, which the Wasp agrees to, and oh geez, Magnus, get comfortable, why don't you?
You are obviously a woman of intelligence and understanding, as well as great beauty. Now behold my person's crotch.
The storm is apparently really damn huge, affecting not only both bases, but even Galactus, who, again, is 4,000 miles away. The heroes are barely able to hold it back, and even then, mostly thanks to Thor's presence. While most of the Avengers-related characters work on planning for a potential attack by the villains, Spidey crawls around and discovers the X-Men having a private conversation. They've elected to leave and join Magneto, because, as Xavier states, we do not belong here.
There is logic in what he says.
Even Colossus backs that up with his pondering.
Must it ever be so that normal men, even those not so normal, fear and hate us because we are mutants?
Doing a bang-up job with those mutant-human relations, Chuck. Like, seriously, this comes out of nowhere. They talk about the fact that the Avengers don't trust Rogue because she only recently became a good guy, but there's been nothing so far in the story to indicate that. What's more, the heroes have all been getting along just fine for the most part, aside from Wolverine being Wolverine. Xavier senses Spidey's eavesdropping and he
well, drops in on them, saying he's gonna rat out their planned defection to Magneto. I'll say this, the dialogue may be a bit awkward, and the X-Men's decision here a bit baffling, but damn if this ain't a fun fight as we see Spidey managing to fight off the entire team before making a hasty exit. However, before he can warn Reed Richards about the X-Men's plans, Xavier manages to alter Spidey's memories. As much as I despise using my psionic abilities to forcibly reorder another's mind, there is too much at stake here to falter now. Yes, too much at stake, like staying with the other heroes and winning the Secret Wars. What the hell is wrong with you, dude? The X-Men take a ship out despite the storm and go to Magneto's place. Speaking of, Magneto is receiving a communication from Dr. Doom, who offers an alliance that he turns down.
So be it. Know you then that your choice is irrevocable, and you will live to regret it.
Do I still get a refund?
Of course. Doom is wise in the ways of customer service.
Magneto returns to the Wasp, and the two seem to be on friendlier terms. Far too friendly, as Magneto starts making out with her despite her protests, which then leads to her going, why not? Yeah, this is weird and creepy, so let's move on to something less weird and creepy. Dr. Doom granting superpowers to two women. Where did they come from? Well, it's not shown right away, but recall that the Beyonder assembled Battleworld out of chunks of other planets. One such chunk is a piece of Denver, Colorado. Doom recruited these two women off-panel to help bolster his forces, granting one the ability to change her form to that of ionized plasma and fire out heat beams, thus going by the name Volcana, while the other gets massive strength and endurance, going by the name Titania. Volcana and the Molecule Man take an instant shine to one another. Aw, they make a cute couple. One sets you on fire, and then the other shreds your burning flesh with his mind. Thor goes to wake up the Enchantress, because I guess we needed some more characters to act stupid. He claims it's because the two of them are gods, and therefore they can discuss things that mortals couldn't understand. Which, given what we see them doing later, yeah, it's clear he just thinks she's hot. The two teleport off somewhere while the Hulk is starting to have issues concentrating, and as a result, fails to wake up Captain America when the storm breaks. With that, they're caught unawares when Doom's forces launch their attack on the base. The group is forced to withdraw and regroup as Doom frees the other prisoners, leading us into issue 4. And while I won't normally talk about the covers in a situation like this one features one of the best covers of all time. The Hulk and a group of heroes trapped underneath a mountain with the Hulk holding it up. Most of the page is made up of rock just to emphasize how huge this is.
Beneath 150 billion tons stands the Hulk, and he's not happy.
Not about this, though. He just learned that his car insurance got canceled. Doom uses the Molecule Man to completely annihilate their base, which they had previously said was about the size of Chicago, so yeah, Molecule Man is kind of dangerous. The villains scour the wreckage for the heroes, but Dr. Octopus soon spots them having long retreated out. While most of the villains try to chuck pieces of debris at them from a distance, the Molecule Man has a different solution. Drop an entire freaking mountain on them! Thor and the Enchantress, meanwhile, are hanging out in some random field with the Enchantress telling him how much she wants to bang him, but he's all like, no, you've got to earn love and stuff. Thankfully, they're interrupted by the mountain dropping, since that much stuff hitting the ground caused enough of a tremor to even affect the two from a distance. Thor teleports back and learns how it's likely his friends are dead and decides to fight all 13 of the villains on his own, hoping the Enchantress will join him, but of course she doesn't. It's another awesome fight, showing off just how cool Thor is, but ultimately he tricks the villains into thinking he's disintegrated so he can see if the heroes survived. Doom also has Ultron kill Kang for his earlier attempt to kill him. Doom's not exactly management material if this is how he treats his employees. The X-Men arrive at Magneto's fortress as he fashions a comb for the Wasp. And I wish this place had plumbing. What sort of beings would build a place with no powder rooms? Given what happens with the Beyonder in Secret Wars 2, that line makes far too much sense. The X-Men offer an alliance to Magneto, who's more than happy to try such a thing. However, he points out that it's not enough to be willing to fight. They have to actually slay their enemies. And that might include Captain America and company. Of course, the Wasp was just playing along this whole time, trying to figure out what his plans were, so she betrays him. And now that I know you really, really are the most evil scum since Hitler, I'm going to stop you! Janet, he's a Holocaust survivor. Go to hell. Anyway, the Wasp steals a ship and flies off. Magneto wants to crush her, but Xavier stops him. A few hours ago, I succumbed to temptation and psionically prevented Spider-Man from delaying our journey here. That was a crime, an act I shall long regret. So, any X-Men fans want to comment on whether Xavier ever brings that up again? Just curious. In that moment of weakness, I was no better than Doom, or Hitler, or anyone else who ever used power to usurp another's freedom. If we are to be allies, Magneto, we must first agree that whatever noble ends we seek do not justify evil means. Chuck, you do recall that this guy started up a group called the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, right?